Hey, what's up, Tacties? Hope everybody's doing well. Today we're going to be going over a little update, what's going on over in Russia. Looks like Zelenskyy is over there slapping Putin's little pecker around. So I'm interested to see how things are going. I think it's affecting civilians in a big way. And it's, all in all, I wish that this conflict would end, honestly, because it's been absolutely horrific for the Ukrainians, and it's bringing unnecessary casualties. And how many Russians have been injured and killed throughout this conflict? Absolutely insane. So I've not been a fan of this conflict whatsoever. I've been following it pretty closely, but I am very, very proud of the Ukrainians for pushing and being resilient and fighting back and not giving up. Zelenskyy took a lot of heat for being an actor and having a little bit of uniqueness along his journey and when he was in acting, and I think he's done an absolute excellent job as commander-in-chief for his nation. And I think that there has been a very brave show of force from the Ukrainians, and I think that the Russians have absolutely had to fight Putin's war, and I genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, do not wish this for any Russian, Ukrainian. But at the end of the day, the world that they live in is completely different from what we live in the United States. And I'm very thankful and very fortunate that we live the way that we do. But I hope that this resolves itself to some degree eventually, because it needs to end, honestly. And I think this is mostly about the fuel shortages and what's going on. So we're going to do a little reaction video, see what's going on. Fun fact, this war started on my birthday in Ukraine and my wife's birthday. It actually was 9/11. So kind of a fun fact for my family, an absolute crap fact for fun, like not even cool, not cool whatsoever. So let's get into it.
For months now, Ukraine has been sending long-range drones and missiles to attack oil facilities deep inside Russia. In recent days, Ukraine claims to have carried out strikes.
The Ukrainians have absolutely changed the game with drone warfare, absolutely changed it. I remember actually getting an email asking if I would be willing to donate my drone because of this conflict and what's going on, and what they've done and the things that they have developed are absolutely changing modern warfare.
Strikes on the large Ufa lubricant
Look at those
refinery
freaking lines,
in the
bro.
Urals region.
Look at those prices. I don't know the difference, but
created a fuel shortage inside of Russia, leading to rationing, long queues at filling stations, and
this is going to cause madness,
impacting Russians' daily lives.
Oh, I bet.
What is happening to Russia? It's worse than in the Soviet Union. How much longer are we supposed to stay silent?
See, and here's the thing. One of the biggest problems is you guys staying silent. One of the biggest issues is that the people are not standing up to Putin and the government. And the government and Putin are losing a lot of allies, like day by day, losing a ton of allies. They are absolutely depleting their financial status, and they're really showing the world that their outdated systems are showing.
This young man is one of many Russians who are frustrated, angry,
You gotta have
and
some balls,
increasingly
though,
alarmed by what's
to stand up and speak out.
Across the country, drivers are waiting hours.
Oh, dude, this is
sometimes more than a full day just to fill up their tank.
a full day to
Russia's
get.
internet
That's
is
crazy.
flooded with videos showing kilometer-long
People are gonna
queues
be
at
mad.
gas stations.
Look at
The
that
fuel
line.
crisis triggered in part by Ukrainian drone attacks is now being
I don't know what the difference is, with their currency to ours, but those prices don't look good.
felt far beyond the battlefield. As refineries fuel
Oh my God. Imagine being Putin and imagine being the leaders of this country and being attacked like this. This is not good. This shows an extreme vulnerability, and your quick reaction force to defend your homeland is absolutely incapable at this point.
transport infrastructure come under repeated
Your infrastructure's
attack.
crap
Food
right now.
supplies
And look
are
at that.
growing increasingly
Think about,
strained.
aside from this, think about how many toxins are being taken in. Thinking about all of the things, like they're having to evacuate people at this point. Guaranteed that people are being evacuated from these regions.
How are people supposed to live like this if they
This
can't
isn't living.
even fill up their cars and get around?
Many Russians are angry, but what comes next? Could frustration online turn into something more? Criticizing
So, and it's also interesting to see, like, okay, say that you criticize and you stand up to Putin, you stand up to the Kremlin, you stand up to all of these individuals over here who hold state and country power, right? Say that you do that. Are you going to be assassinated? Like, there's been a lot of things in the past that have come into play here. So it's interesting to see because, you know, it's not necessarily freedom of speech over here in some of these other countries the way that it is in the United States. That's one of the things that we're blessed with, is being able to voice our opinion and speak freely for the most part. You have some people that absolutely don't understand that amendment right, but that's a different conversation. So the more people that stand together and band together, the bigger odds that you have of actually overcoming, and I don't want to say overthrow, but taking back what's yours. It's you as the people. This is your homeland. This is your country. One man and one severely mutated military force is not going to be able to do much for long.
With the Russian government, President Vladimir Putin, or the war in Ukraine carries serious risks in Russia. That makes it difficult to gauge the true mood of the country. So are the voices we hear online representative?
I love his accent. On the online, all of the presenting, I love this. I love, if you guys do not know this about me, I love to talk and do some crazy accents or whatever. It is fantastic. I love this. I'm not making fun of him. I genuinely do love this.
Of the wider population. Political scientist Dmitry Oreshkin, based here in Riga, says,
I don't believe we're witnessing.
Yo, Russians talk like some gangsters, okay? I remember growing up next door to some Russians, and they came over, and man, I'm gonna tell you right now, dude, I absolutely loved those dudes. They were crazy though. It got me in a lot of trouble. Kind of energy, you know what I'm saying? But dude, when they talk, it just sounds so wild to me. I remember they'd be going back and forth. Sometimes I'd be uncomfortable. You know, Dad get mad and he'd be like, "Oh, what's up?" And you're like, "What's going on over there, dog?"
A genuine call for revolution. Rather, I think Russians are only now beginning to understand reality. Until now, Putin's war existed mainly on television. You sit at home and watch something happening elsewhere. Meanwhile, you still have your beer, your savings, your stable prices, but suddenly you begin to notice the change.
Yeah, so when it starts to impact you and hit you in this type of format, you're obviously not going to be able to just sit there and drink away the reality of what's going on. Whenever you can't go get gas, whenever it's hard to go and get necessities that you need to live and get through, it's just absolutely going to freaking affect you. And people are going to grow angry because you're not keeping your economy in check. Now you're tapping into reserves, and then when there's no more reserves to tap into because you're fighting a war, you know what I mean? Like, think about it.
Changes, wheel lines, disruptions in food deliveries, rising prices, and you start thinking, this is not what I had imagined, Mr. Putin.
As Ukrainian drones strike deep
Nah.
inside Russia, the consequences
Putin's
are
losing a lot of
increasingly
support, I
visible
bet.
in daily life. Fuel is not
And you know, Putin's kind of a dick. Like, I don't know much about the guy or anything like that, but when you sit here from an outside perspective from the United States, I'm going to tell you what country I'm never going to. You couldn't pay me to go to that country no matter what, just because of the way that it's ran and operated, and because I just called Putin a dick on freaking interwebs, you know what I mean? Like, of course I would never go there. If somebody clipped this or put this anywhere, I'd be freaking smoked by the time I even step foot. But aside from that, why would I want to go any... I honestly don't have many interests in going outside of the United States of America because I love my country. I love being a part of my country. And to be quite honest, if I do ever travel out, it will be the right circumstances, because I think that there's no better place on earth than right here in America.
only more expensive, but in some regions difficult to find. A problem President Vladimir Putin continues to downplay.
We are seeing a certain shortage, however,
A
it's not
sudden
critical.
shortage, bro. It's not critical.
does all this-
You're literally on freaking fire, okay? You're freaking burning. Everything's coming down. And if you don't get it fixed, right now, your people are going to overthrow you, and they're going to take you right out of there, out of your little hidden chambers, all right? So don't tell us that it's just a small little, no big deal. We're going to work our way out of this, because we're not.
Clean for the mood in the country. Until recently, many Russians accepted the Kremlin's narrative that Russia was defending itself against what Moscow calls NATO.
Defending yourselves? Okay. Against NATO for one. For one, let's go ahead and say anything against NATO. You're talking about the strongest alliance in the world right now. Even with the BS going on and the little riffraff and you need to pay this and you need to pay this and now you're going to give more. I mean, we should have an equality here, okay, guys? Well, the U.S. is not going to front the bill forever, but at the end of the day, you're still talking about the strongest allegiance in the world that will absolutely wreck anybody else who comes against it. And I know that all the other world leaders are paying attention closely to what's going on, and we're sitting here playing chess with all these other countries and all this geopolitical stuff going on. I know, I'm aware of it, I watch it, I have a lot to learn, I'm sure. I don't know everything, but what I do know is the freaking garbage that you're feeding your people, and then you're mitigating what can and cannot be spoken about, what can be processed for social media, what news outlets are allowed to give what information. It's complete like dictatorship, man.
Backed aggression by Ukraine. Others simply tuned it out. That worked while the war came at little personal cost, says the Russian political scientist.
Russians seem quite afraid, to be
But
honest.
when people suddenly feel it in their own pocket, they
Why do you guys think that America is 250 years old, has the strongest military, has the craziest people that you've ever met in your life, and is absolutely willing to fight to the death? How do you think that we are this way? You think it's because we just sit here and let people do whatever they want with us? You think it's because we just let government do whatever they want? No, the people absolutely will fight. You know how many guns we have as United States citizens? You know how many guns are in each household? You know how many people are ready to bear arms? You come and try to take our Second Amendment rights, and then you want to see how many people are going to band together. They've been trying to do it continuously. There have been so many political parties out there and people trying to get it because people are getting shot, mass shootings and all this and all that. Our country was founded on these principles. So let me just tell you what's going to happen. A revolutionary war will kick back off. We'll absolutely freaking go balls to the wall and fight for our right to party, baby.
liking it. They say they can't be right. They
I know
don't
I
want
will.
it anymore.
Since February 2022, prices in Russia have risen steadily. Food,
Yeah, I
housing
bet.
and heating cost nearly
Look at
40%
that,
more between
40%.
January 2022 and January 2026.
This is over a 4-year span, guys. 4-year span, up 40%. I know the world is feeling this. That's one of the reasons that the United States is trying to be so peculiar with Iran, because if we move incorrectly, it doesn't just affect the United States, it doesn't just affect Iran, it affects Russia, it affects China, it affects Thailand, it affects all these other countries, all these other places, no matter what, because of how tied the world is. We're a network. You know, back in the day, you used to be able to get into a fight and it wouldn't revolve or involve kingdoms from far away. And now if you get into anything, the entire world will know about it and be impacted at a moment's notice. And then those effects linger, and then you have to think about your society, because if your society and your citizens aren't happy, they're either going to leave, which is going to further decrease your economy, or they're going to retaliate and fight back.
Now, fuel shortages in one of the world's largest energy producers
That's
and the
crazy.
resulting
That's one of
loss
the big things.
personal mobility are driving
We're sitting here thinking that Russia's a big king dingling, and to be quite honest, like, all we're seeing right now is tremendous amount of weakness. And a lot of their Soviet era equipment and a lot of things that they have from back in the day that are outdated are really starting to show here. And it's just like, man, you know, one of the things that I can say confidently about America is we are always in conflict. Sometimes we're in conflicts that we don't need to be in and we don't belong in. But how do you think that we stay so relevant? How do you think that we stay in demand? How do you think we stay on top of everything? Because we fight, and we fight often, we fight frequently, and we're not afraid of any fight. A lot of these other countries haven't fought in decades, and they are using outdated equipment, and they're studying how we maneuver, which is great. But we put how many billions, how much of a trillion, like how much money are we putting into our warfighting capabilities compared to other countries? Even when you combine them and you talk to elite soldiers who served in some of these branches, they're often surprised. And that's one of the reasons that I don't necessarily agree with all the conflicts that we get in, but I can say I'm a proud born in this country American, and I don't really care how anybody feels about that. It's one of the reasons I created this channel, because on my other YouTube channel, It's more of a platform for my family, for my trading, for more of business. Here is for me to be more opinionated, for me to not really take off the gloves a little bit and to be more militant and to kind of share that infantry side of me and kind of bring out the parts of me that I hold back often, because I don't want to merge and cross paths, because I do have different characteristics about me and I have a lot of different personalities that I often battle with.
Anger online. Even
Ooh, 4th of July right now. What a great day to be talking about these things, but the thunder is coming.
At
It's
the end
like,
of June, his approval rating stood at 69%, the lowest since the start of the
honestly, it's still impressive. He's sitting at 69%. For one, what a great number. For two, absolutely bonkers. It just shows you how loyal people are right now when they like absolutely should not be.
war in 2022.
I wouldn't be
So
at
how
least.
serious is this for the Russian leader?
God, I love how this
especially
dude. I love
when
how he
state
talks.
television still presents a very different reality from
Such
what
a,
people see in their daily lives
unique
and online.
What matters is that an
way to
empty fuel
speak.
tank has begun to play the role once played by an empty refrigerator. The empty fuel tank matters now more than television.
Oh, yeah.
Putin is losing respect and credibility. He keeps telling obvious fairy tales, but they are not coming
Fairy
true.
tales, I mean.
don't think it threatens Putin's power today, but it does weaken his legitimacy. Russians are beginning to search for something else. So far, they have found nothing, because there is nothing else besides Putin.
For now, frustrated,
And that's the thing too. Who's going to stand up against Putin right now at this point? Like, who's going to come in and take his spot? Who's going to? I mean, who's going to do it? You know what I mean? Like, that's a very valid point. And there is nobody else right now. And if somebody were to step up, who is that somebody else? What kind of power do they have? What kind of influence do they have? And what kind of cojones do they have? Because you're almost immediately going to become a target.
is largely confined to social media, often expressed through dark humor.
This is savage,
Use the
bro.
pedals instead, one user jokes. Take a
Yeah,
horse,
it's crazy.
draw Taxi, another suggests.
I use AI for my
Forget design
thumbnails and stuff,
handbags,
but
buy fuel
that'll probably
canisters.
change down the road.
And let's bring in DW's
People are
Regional
getting
Bureau
more
Chief,
ballsy.
Yuri Rashado, who filed that report. Yuri, your report paints this picture of growing frustration. Is
I wonder
this
if we're
still
gonna see
primarily
anybody,
an
like,
economic
fighting or
story,
anything.
or is it starting to become a political one?
Well, I think, Sarah, what we are seeing here is a level of economic pressure that could become political if it continues and gets even worse. And right now, all signs suggest it will get worse because Ukraine clearly intends to keep sending drones
Why
and
wouldn't
targeting
they?
Russian infrastructure.
Why wouldn't
As
they?
I said, if these attacks continue at the moment, at the current pace,
You got to think, you've literally pushed into their land, started taking parts of their land, started attacking their home front, and saying that it's rightfully yours. You think that they're just going to give up? You think that they're just going to give you their land and they're just going to say, "Oh, okay, take it. You can have it." Absolutely not, and they shouldn't. And no Ukrainian should stop fighting. You should absolutely defend your nation, your country. You should defend your honor. You should defend your beliefs. You should defend your rights. And you have the right to do that. And I think that you should push every single Russian back into their land, and that you should absolutely take back your land, because that's what it's all about. And look at what you've done. Like, I hope that the civilians of Russia get out of there and they move and they do what's best for them. But I absolutely hope that Putin finds himself on his knees, because what you're doing is wrong and it's just not right, man. And you need to have your willy slapped.
this could turn into a political problem for the Kremlin. On the other hand, if Russia finds, let's say,
Yeah,
an
the
effective
Kremlin's
way
driven.
to intercept these drones, then the situation may calm down somewhat. But at the moment, what we are seeing is that this fuel crisis of
And they're gonna really have to do something crazy with these drones. You're gonna have to you're basically gonna have to come up with some kind of anti-swarm system, because these drones don't cost very much to make. I think as low as $500 for some of these drones. So if you think about that, and a fun fact, I think it was the G7 summit that they just had. They basically gave a huge loan to Ukraine using the interest from Russians' money that is held up. So that basically that we have said, no, you can't use, and they're basically going to take the interest, loan it you to Ukraine, and then use it. So it's basically Russia is funding Ukraine's fight. That's freaking bonks.
the past few
And if I'm incorrect on any of that information, please correct me in the comments.
weeks has probably done more visible damage inside Russia than all 20 European Union sanctions packages combined. People can actually see and feel the impact, and with that, frustration is becoming increasingly obvious.
I'll be so mad.
It's something we really haven't seen on this scale
Just
in
getting to
the
work can
past
be
4
hard.
years.
Yuri, I understand that you spoke with a political scientist who said that Russians are only now beginning to feel the war in their own lives.
Yep.
Is this the first time that you've seen a noticeable gap open up between the Kremlin's narrative and people's everyday experiences?
Well, most Russians have known since Soviet times that television doesn't always tell the truth. Younger Russians hardly watch TV at all anymore, Sarah.
Why
there are
would you?
also
It's
the
so
generation
manipulated.
most frustrated by Russia's isolation from the West. Older Russians or elderly Russians who think critically and still watch state television have been noticing the gap between reality and the official
good.
narrative for years. But at the same time, we shouldn't underestimate the power of propaganda or the strength of Russian
Propaganda. You know, if you really want a powerfully true nation, you should trust your people a little bit more. The right people, at least. That's my opinion, man. If you are leaders, there's a reason to have leadership that you instill and trust. I know that can be tricky, but man, look at our warfighters.
patriotism strength. There are still many Russians who genuinely believe in the state, in Putin, and in what he says. What's becoming obvious, though, is that Putin himself
A lot of that
seems
is
to
fear,
be
I think.
finding it harder and harder to put a brave face on things.
Putin genuinely looks nervous when you watch him in interviews. He looks kind of dumbfounded, and he kind of looks like he's struggling to find his words, which is kind of crazy for a wordsmith who's been playing the game for as long as he has.
The television interview he gave recently, the one quoted in my report, you can see him quite clearly reading his answers from a teleprompter. He looks tired, the audio
very
quality
tired.
is poor. It's not exactly a shining example of Russian propaganda.
We know that Russians, they face severe penalties for
I
critical.
mean, what, they got like 1.5 million casualties right now, you know, like what, I think over 400,000 killed and over 1 million injured or something like that, if my stats are right. That's crazy. You know, we haven't seen numbers like that in conflict in a long time.
Criticizing the war. So how much confidence do you think that we can really have in the anger that we're seeing online, that it reflects wider public opinion?
Of course, sitting here in Riga, I can't speak for every Russian, but honestly, I couldn't do that even if I were in Moscow. Russia is a huge country with more than 130 million people. What I can say, Sarah, is that Russians absolutely love social media, probably more than Germans do. They post everything. Telegram is hugely popular, and so is Instagram, despite being officially banned because it's owned by Meta. I have never seen such a flood of videos as we are seeing right now, and quite frankly, when people can no longer get around, when they can't even drive their cars because there is no fuel available, that's when things stop being funny. That's why political analyst Reshkin said that today the fuel canister plays the role that the refrigerator once played.
Here's the other thing too, is like Russia's a huge importer of oil and fuel to other countries. Like, so if they're not able to provide it for their own people, how long until they can't provide for other countries? And they're going to have to pull from what countries? Because right now, getting Iranian oil isn't exactly easy. And all these other countries don't have this rich supply. And if it's getting attacked, like, you see the conflict, you see the problem?
Old saying was, if Russians don't have food,
I need to learn a little bit more about
get really angry. Today it seems it's when they don't
the
have
to and from
fuel
on
in the
imports.
canister.
Yuri, you've covered Russia for years. In what way does this moment now feel different from previous periods of hardship?
Well, let's say there is one major difference compared with the past, I would say. People are far more intimidated today than they were a few years ago, Sarah, when I was still based in Moscow. Back in 2021, Alexei Navalny managed to bring hundreds of thousands of Russians onto the streets across the country. Today's protests look very different. Most of them happen online, on social media. Of course, the authorities monitor social media closely. There are fines for posting videos on Ukrainian drones striking Russian facilities. Overall, judging from what I hear from friends in Russia and personal context, there is one thing that stands out above all else. There is a lot more fear today than there was before.
Yuri Reshedo, thank you so much.
So a lot of fear, man. A lot of fear. I thought we were going to get a little bit more juice on that, but you know, a lot of this is just me giving my input, me giving my thoughts and stuff like that. So I appreciate y'all being here. I don't want to take up too much time. I'm going to try to do one of these every single night, and we'll just keep going. If we get some breaking news or something I think is very valuable, I'll put it in there. But at the same time, I'm not a journalist or anything like that. I'm just a dude voicing his opinion, sharing and creating my opinion and putting it out there for the world to see. And yeah, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, man, just let me know. I'd love to have you here in the community. Y'all take care of yourself. Stay blessed, man.